Understanding anxiety, the science behind it. What is anxiety? Anxiety is something we've all experienced at some point in our lives. Maybe it was the fluttering in your stomach before a big presentation, or that tightness in your chest when you realized you'd forgotten an important deadline. While these feelings are uncomfortable, they're also completely normal and even useful. Anxiety is your body's natural response to stress, designed to keep you alert and ready to face challenges. But what happens when this helpful mechanism becomes overwhelming, persistent, or chronic? The role of the amygdala, your brain's fear center. At the heart of anxiety lies a tiny but powerful part of your brain called the amygdala. Think of the amygdala as your internal alarm system. When it senses danger, whether real or perceived, it sends out signals to prepare your body for action. This triggers the fight or flight response, flooding your system with adrenaline and cortisol, two hormones that increase your heart rate, sharpen your focus, and give you a burst of energy. Here's where things get tricky. In modern life, the threats we face aren't usually physical, like running from a predator. Instead, they're more abstract deadlines, social expectations, financial worries. Unfortunately, your amygdala doesn't know the difference. Whether you're staring down a lion or stressing over a job interview, your brain reacts the same way, by sounding the alarm bells. Over time, if your amygdala stays on high alert too often, anxiety can shift from being a helpful tool to becoming a constant companion. Case study 1. Sarah's story. Take Sarah, a 24-year-old graduate student who started noticing her anxiety spike during exam season. She'd wake up in the middle of the night with her heart racing, convinced she wasn't prepared no matter how much she studied. Her amygdala had essentially gone into overdrive, interpreting academic pressure as a life or death situation. Even though there was no immediate physical threat, her body responded as if there were. Cortisol spikes and their impact. Another key player in anxiety is cortisol, often referred to as the stress hormone. Cortisol helps regulate metabolism, immune function, and energy levels. However, when cortisol spikes frequently due to ongoing stress, it can wreak havoc on your body and mind. Chronic cortisol exposure has been linked to fatigue, irritability, and difficulty concentrating, all hallmarks of anxiety. For example, consider Alex, a 28-year-old marketing professional juggling multiple projects at work. He found himself snapping at colleagues over minor issues and struggling to finish tasks because his mind felt foggy. His doctor explained that prolonged stress had likely elevated his cortisol levels, leaving him physically and emotionally drained. Summary of key points. Anxiety is a natural stress response triggered by the amygdala and fueled by cortisol. While helpful in short bursts, chronic activation of this system can lead to persistent anxiety. Real-life examples show how everyday pressures can activate the brain's fear center, causing both mental and physical symptoms. Why young adults are vulnerable? Young adulthood is a unique period of transition filled with opportunities and challenges. Between ages 18 and 40, many people are navigating major milestones like finishing school, starting careers, forming relationships, and establishing independence. These transitions can be exciting, but they also create fertile ground for anxiety to take root. Developmental factors transitioning into adulthood. One reason young adults are particularly susceptible to anxiety is the process of identity formation. During this stage of life, you're figuring out who you are, what you value, and where you fit in the world. This exploration can be incredibly rewarding, but it can also feel uncertain and overwhelming. Imagine Emma, a 22-year-old recent college graduate trying to decide between two job offers. On paper, both options seem great, but she can't shake the fear of making the wrong choice. Her anxiety stems not just from the decision itself, but from the deeper question of whether she's truly living up to her potential. This kind of existential uncertainty is common among young adults and can amplify feelings of worry. Societal influences, perfectionism, and social media. Another factor contributing to rising anxiety levels is societal pressure. Today's culture places immense emphasis on achievement, appearance, and success. Social media platforms like Instagram and LinkedIn exacerbate this by showcasing highlight reels of other people's lives. Scrolling through posts about promotions, vacations, and picture-perfect relationships can leave you feeling inadequate, even if you know those images don't tell the full story. Consider Jamie, a 26-year-old graphic designer who spends hours comparing her portfolio to others online. Despite receiving positive client feedback, she constantly doubts her abilities because her work doesn't measure up to the polished designs she sees on social media. This cycle of comparison fuels perfectionism, which is strongly associated with anxiety. Competitive environments further compound the problem. Whether it's vying for internships, promotions, or spots in prestigious programs, young adults often feel like they're competing against an ever-growing pool of talented peers. The pressure to stand out can lead to burnout and chronic stress. Case study 2. Mark's struggle. Mark, a 30-year-old software engineer, knows this struggle all too well. After years of excelling academically and professionally, he suddenly hit a wall. No matter how hard he worked, he couldn't silence the voice telling him he wasn't good enough. His therapist helped him recognize that his anxiety stemmed partly from growing up in a household that valued achievement above everything else. Breaking free from this mindset took time, but understanding its roots was a crucial first step. Summary of key points. Young adults face unique vulnerabilities due to developmental transitions and societal pressures. Identity formation and existential questions can heighten feelings of uncertainty and anxiety. Social media and competitive environments fuel perfectionism, making it harder to feel satisfied with personal progress. Signs you're experiencing anxiety. Recognizing anxiety isn't always straightforward. Its symptoms can manifest in different ways, physically, emotionally, and behaviorally. By learning to identify these signs, you can better understand your experience and take steps toward managing it effectively. Physical symptoms, how anxiety feels in your body. When anxiety strikes, it often shows up in your body first. Common physical symptoms include racing heart, shallow breathing, fatigue or restlessness, muscle tension or headaches, and stomach aches or nausea. For instance, think back to Lisa, a 27-year-old teacher who began experiencing frequent migraines and insomnia. At first, she dismissed them as unrelated health issues, but eventually she realized they coincided with periods of intense stress at work. Once she connected the dots, she could address the underlying cause rather than just treating the symptoms. Emotional symptoms, how anxiety affects your mind. Anxiety doesn't just affect your body, it takes a toll on your emotions too. Emotional symptoms may include persistent worry or dread, irritability or mood swings, feeling overwhelmed or hopeless, and difficulty concentrating or remembering things. Take Noah, a 29-year-old entrepreneur who noticed he was snapping at his team over small mistakes. Upon reflection, he realized his irritability stemmed from the constant worry about meeting investor expectations. Naming the emotion helped him approach situations with more patience and clarity. Behavioral symptoms, how anxiety shapes your actions. Finally, anxiety influences how you behave. Behavioral symptoms might look like procrastination or avoidance, overthinking decisions, seeking reassurance excessively, withdrawing from social activities. For example, Rachel, a 25-year-old writer, would put off submitting articles until the last minute because she feared criticism. Recognizing this pattern allowed her to break the cycle by setting smaller, manageable deadlines for herself. Checklist format: identifying anxiety symptoms. To help you determine whether you're experiencing anxiety, here's a quick checklist. Physical: racing heart, shallow breathing, fatigue or restlessness, muscle tension,